Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse. Today, Tuesday, June 22nd, 2025. Now, of course, we're all over all things Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The filings to unseal the grand jury transcripts are pending. But there's been a development. Pam Bondi has said that they seek to meet with the lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, we covered her trial when she was sentenced to 20 years. And she's down in Florida, and she floated the possibility of testifying to Congress in exchange for what? We don't know. Here's a concept that's going to connect the two stories today. Rule 35 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure. Now, many people are saying, in a way, that the administration's in a bind because if they pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, they look weak on sex trafficking. But if they don't make the deal and get her to testify, there's going to be information that doesn't come out. Again, people can have different views. I'm saying that's one way that it's described. However, pardon is not the only option. There is something called Rule 35, and in fact, those who have been following Inner City Press's coverage of U.S. versus Roman Storm of Tornado Cash, the crypto trial we're covering, and wrote a book about called Crypto Tornado. Yesterday we learned that a cooperating witness to testify, perhaps later today, Shakeeb Ahmed, we covered him. He did something called the Nirvana DeFi exploit. He was caught and he's in jail. Now he reached out to the prosecutors and they're going to put him on the stand, not in exchange for a pardon since they don't control the Trump administration. In fact, Roman Storm seems to think that Trump should just pardon the whole thing and stop the prosecution. Maybe it hasn't raised to that level yet, but Shakeeb Ahmed, in exchange for testimony, there's something called correction of sentence. And you can get, it's not just corrected for an error, it can be corrected by subsequent cooperation. It's not a 5K1 cooperators deal where you say the mandatory minimum is off. But instead, it's a way to get your sentence recast in light of subsequent cooperation from jail. That's what Ahmed's going to do. Is he going to come in a jumpsuit? Are they going to put him in a suit? I had actually thought that he might have already served out his term. I was there not only for his trial, then he pled guilty. This was in front of Judge Marrero, but I was there for his sentencing. His parents came. He seemed like a very nice family. It was kind of a fancy, he was a coder. It was pure greed. Or innovation. He saw a weakness and he exploited it. And apparently he's going to testify that the only place for him to launder his ill-gotten gains was through Tornado Cash. Now, if the fact that he got caught tends to show that either Tornado Cash is not as private as one thinks, or he got caught for another reason. In any event, Rule 35, keep it in mind, because if I don't know if testimony to Congress will qualify for that. We'll have to go over it. In any event, we're all over both of these cases very closely. Meanwhile, here in SDNY, it's something of a crypto day. Michelle Bond, you may remember, is the spouse of Ryan Salam of XBF fame. She has a hearing, a lot of legal issues, including that apparently the prosecutors, according to both defendants, promised not to go after Michelle Bond if Ryan pled guilty. Now, that's been they've retracted that. It's gone around and around. There's a hearing today, and it's two different judges. There's Judge Kaplan on Ryan and Judge Daniels on Michelle. So we're going to be covering that. There's also the arraignment on new charges of the Samourai wallet duo, Rodriguez and Longaman. It's very similar to Tornado Cash. It's a kind of a crypto mixer case. Meanwhile, the United Nations, talk about scams, talk about corruption. We wrote 2 scoops. Absolute waste in UNISFA, just the total burning, the torching of public funds. And what happened? Nothing. They don't even answer the question. Well, we saw today that it was reported that the U.S. is pulling out of UNESCO. And I have to say, having reported quite in depth on UNESCO, I like culture as much as the next guy, but the UN system is totally corrupt. They hand out jobs to incompetent, failed diplomats at the end of their career, they just burn money. There's a story, how about Michel Sisson and the International Migration Organization? They just try to lobby to get money. It's all about the money, and we're not going to stop. We've applied to re-enter to the United Nations and report on them, ask them a few questions. We're not going to stop. That's pending. To be continued. We're going in.